I want an all-expenses-paid senior trip to Paris. Right now, I want to go to the restaurant in Ratatouille, the one where the rat cooks.
That's an animated film, Infinity. Rats don't actually work there.
Hello, my name is Happy Black Legends, and thank you so much for clicking on this video and on my channel. First of all, I would like to say a quick thank you to my new patron, Annabelle. Miss Annabelle, Miss Fanabelle, thank you so much. Thank you to the rest of my patrons, of course. Thank you to my freaking subscribers. And if you're not subscribed and this is your first time watching, I applaud you as well. Thank you so much for joining. And if this isn't your first time watching, you still haven't subscribed, I personally think you should do that. I think that would be a great decision for your life. The Politician feels like a demented if Wes Anderson was 16% more unstable in an alternate universe and he directed. That's what this show kind of feels like. The Politician is like a long, classic, yet deeply cringy Tumblr post that you can never escape, and you will keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, trying to get to the end of the post. Too long, don't read. The Politician tries so hard, yet misses the mark in many ways. Or does it? The Politician is a show that I still cannot decide whether I love or hate. Obviously, this video is going to contain spoilers. Let's talk about The Politician on Netflix. Now, The Politician is created by these guys who created these shows. These shows, which are absolutely terrible, yet wonderful in their own regard. The Politician sort of follows that code of being complete garbage, but also enlightening and heartwarming at the same time. The Politician is described as a comedy, which I personally find quite interesting. I would not label it as a comedy. I would label it maybe more in the realms of a tragedy, not for its quality, which definitely does contribute to the tragedy sense, but just this general social commentary on what our world is and could be in a certain way. I find that tragic. I don't find that comedic in any way. The Politician follows a young man named Peyton, who is portrayed by the wonderful Ben Platt. Peyton is essentially, his whole drive, his whole goal is to become president of the United States and to become a politician. He is ambitious. He is described as having moxie. I do not know what that word means. He will do whatever it takes to succeed. Perhaps borderline sociopathic. Let's talk about some of the actors on this show. First of all, season 1, they gave us Jessica Lange on a platter.
I honestly don't understand why calling that gay man a butt munch was such a scandal. I mean, whatever floats your boat. That's what gays do. Munch butts and celebrate Halloween.
Jessica Lange is just a classic, timeless artiste. I really do need to get into the rest of her work, because honestly, quite frankly, I only know her from American Horror Story, The Politician, and there's something else. Next, let's talk about the man himself playing Peyton, Ben Platt.
Hiking away with one hand and I'm gonna fall. Woo!
Woo! His performance in this show, I don't know if it's because I don't trust or like Peyton that I don't particularly love Ben Platt's performance, or if Ben Platt is playing the character so well, and because I don't like him, Ben Platt is performing well. I can't differentiate how I feel about Ben Platt's performance per se in this show. But overall, yes, I do love Ben Platt. Let's talk about Gwyneth motherfucking Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow being in this is quite frankly hysterical. Gwyneth is just someone you see and you automatically don't like. I don't know if she's ever done anything, I just don't like her. The whole Goop thing, well, that is a reason why I don't like her. But even before the Goop thing, I've never trusted her eyes. There is something about that woman's eyes and tight-lipped smile that makes me feel as though she is a predator. Anyways, Gwyneth Paltrow's performance in this show was particularly frustrating because she only served to enter a scene and give you a lesson. She would come on this, like, Ben Platt would be struggling with something and he'd be like, oh, woe is me, and she'd go, do you know the story behind oranges? They say an orange has to go through a tragedy in order to become an orange. Be an orange. Those are literally all of her lines. Like, I'm not even playing. And it just comes across as so fake and phony. Like, she has no depth. Her character has no depth. She is a vain, aloof, rich, pretty white woman that cares but doesn't care at the same time. And that's as deep as her character goes, which is fine, but give her less screen time, you know? Don't force us, don't subject us, the viewers, to that. Bette frickin' Midler.
Oh, industry, whatever will become of me.
Bette Midler is someone who I appreciate greatly as an actress and a singer. I think she's amazing. I wish that she had sung a song for The Politician. That kind of bummed me out. Yeah, Bette Midler, I personally would have loved to have seen her sing a song. I mean, Ben sang, so give Hadassah a song. Hashtag give Hadassah a song if they get a season 3. Bette Midler was, I think, their best decision, their strongest decision out of the entire series. She really added to the show. She portrayed Hadassah in such a funny way. She was such a funny New Yorker character, but not in an annoying, like, I'm a New Yorker. Like, it was just a natural thing. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel rushed. Whereas Gwyneth Paltrow's Californian portrayal felt extremely, like, we've seen this so many times. Hadassah is probably one of my favorite characters, if not, she's my second favorite character, but I really appreciated Bette Midler's performance and portrayal. Before I get into the things that I liked and disliked about this show, I would like to admit something that I've never admitted about myself on this channel. I have worked in the political field for almost 2 years. Off and on, I've worked numerous campaigns, I've worked with politicians at various levels, and I have seen many things. I have spent so much time with voters and talking with voters, and I understand people's disdain for politics. I understand it deeply. I understand people not wanting to stay informed. It's all too much and it's very hard to get into. My point is, watching this show for me serves a deeper sense of second embarrassment and cringe because of my experience in the political sector. A lot of the things that they talk about and a lot of things that they say, I myself have said or have heard other people talking about or saying in terms of behind a campaign, talking one-on-one with voters, talking with politicians, whether that be a mayor or a congressperson. So I've experienced many situations in this show. However, there are also many situations I've never experienced in this show. Why? Because I could never be a career politician. I don't have that energy. This show talks about mental health, and I'm bringing this up because one of the characters commits suicide very early on. It's the first episode. And when we find out why he did it later on, he essentially says, I feel everything. And there just wasn't enough positivity to keep me around. That is a problem that I have. A lot of times when I'm suicidal, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the state of the world. It has to do with the fact that people are starving. It has to do with the fact that people are greedy and evil. And it has to do with the fact that we could literally solve world problems, but people just refuse to. They just refuse to out of selfish greed. And I can't stand that. And we as a people will rise up. Okay, so I just wanted to give that little tidbit about myself that yes, I understand the world of politics. Not completely. Politics is very complicated, but one of the life lessons I've learned working in politics is the system is designed so that no one can win. You're always going to have to compromise. You're always going to have to lose a little bit just to get what you want. That's the world of politics. And that's a really important lesson that I think a lot of people, they say they understand, but I've seen it. I've worked a campaign where by the end of the campaign, I didn't even know if I believed in the campaign, because I learned about other issues involving the city, and I learned that the problem was much deeper than a surface level. And that's what politics is. It's very personable. Politics is, it's more than just, it's a way, it's how you live your life, really. For some people, your very existence is political. I feel like my existence is political. I know not every minority feels that way, but I do. Now, let's get into some of the things that I liked. Number one, the costumes. The costumes. I know you can't tell right now because they look like pure shite, but I am quite into fashion and costumery and expressing yourself through clothes. I think that clothes can be such a form of expression that people underutilize, and it really makes you mad. I feel like we as a society should normalize people dressing like wizards if they fucking want to, you know? The costumes in this show, especially McAfee's costumes, were so amazing and just beautiful, and I really fucking appreciated it. The scenery, the architecture, the location. Also really fucking loved Infinity's character. I thought Infinity was one of the strongest characters. She was the most real character, and I think I love real, and that's why I really liked her the most. Like I also mentioned, Hadassah, portrayed by Bette Midler, she killed that shit, period. But the camera work in season 1, some of the pans that they did and some of the quick like zooms that they did were very funny, and I had me laughing more than anything. The lie detector test moment was such a serve. I really freaking loved that. Alice did that shit. She came, did it, and went. Basically, there was a point where Peyton was running for president in his high school. Also, okay, I'll get to that later. Anyways, there was a scene, there's a part in the show where Peyton is running for president in his high school's election, and he is accused of murdering his opponent because she suddenly goes missing and no one can find her. And her, Alice is Ben Platt's boyfriend, Peyton's girlfriend, excuse me. Alice is Peyton's girlfriend, and she takes a lie detector test and passes, even though everything she said was a lie. Which is why lie detector tests are complete bullshit, and never talk to the police without a lawyer. I will always refuse a lie detector test, and I have anxiety, so I already know the test would say, like, I'm failing. You can't measure a lie. That's scientifically impossible. You can't do that. But it measures like your heart rate and your nervousness. That's what it does. And she passes. And that moment was so, like, that was a bomb-ass moment. The music in this show. The theme song. Dun, 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 like, I never skip the intro because I love the theme song that much. I fell in love again. All things go. All things go. Yeah, I really love that theme song. Vienna, that moment, I freaking love Vienna. That song, okay, don't hate me for this, but I know that song only because of the great movie 13 Going on 30, starring the beautiful and wonderfully talented Jennifer Garner and the total dilf Mark Ruffalo. And they play that song during a sad like montage, and I love it. You know when it's over. And Ben Platt's voice is just, it's a gift. It's a true gift. It's something that you should appreciate. And so hearing him sing one of my favorite songs ever was just really nice. But my favorite musical moment ever was in season 2, the last episode, or the episode before the last episode. Ben Platt sang Corner of the Sky from the musical Pippin, which I was in Pippin my junior year. Pippin is one of my favorite musicals. It's a Bob Fosse bop. And I want to talk about the symbolism of Ben Platt's character Peyton singing Corner of the Sky. Pippin is a musical about a boy becoming a man named Pippin, and he's trying to find his life purpose. He's trying to find his corner of the sky, which is impossible. There is no corner of the sky, right? But he doesn't know that yet. And that musical, when I was in it and I read the whole thing, I cried the first time, because when I was in it, I had the perspective of it being about a bunch of performers constantly trying to put on a show. And it is about that, and it's right. But now that I'm older, that show makes me wonderfully nostalgic, and it makes me almost want to cry. And I really, really related to Senator Haddish when she started crying, because that is exactly just how it is. When you're young and full of hopes and dreams, you want to find your corner of the sky. But as you get older, you realize that that's not possible, and you make do with what you have. But being young and dreaming is such a fun way to be. And the irony of Peyton being young and dreaming of becoming this, you know, this job that so many people are gunning for, President of the United fucking States, for him to sing that song, the symbolism that it had, the beauty that it had, and the fact that it was one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite musicals. That was probably my favorite moment in the entire show. It really resonated deeply with my soul. If you haven't listened to Pippin, I highly recommend it. Bettina Miller is in it, and she completely serves. Everything has its season, everything has its time. Next, I want to talk about my two favorite episodes, The Voter and The Voters. Now, like I said, I've worked in politics, so I've had to survey people before. And I just, god damn it, voters really are like that sometimes. They're really like that, where they don't know what's going on. They don't care about what's going on. They just don't care. And I get why they don't care. And many people feel as though their vote doesn't matter. Well, it turns out that, so the voter episode follows this young boy, and it follows his perspective of the school election. And it provides insight as to how voters feel during, because, you know, the whole show is based around behind the scenes, which is hilarious because we as viewers, most viewers are probably going to resonate more with the voters' experiences, but we've fallen into the trap of trying to understand what goes on behind the scenes. So we've completely forgotten about the voter. The voter has just become a word. So when they give us these episodes, you know, really weighing in on how voters feel, it's really meaningful for me, and I feel like for the audience as a whole. But the voter episode particularly follows this boy, I think his name is Elliot, and he's just a typical boy. He only cares about yakking off and playing video games and vaping. Like, that is it. That is his scope. And he hates his life, and he's horny all the time, and he hates everything. And I completely get it. And it follows him as Peyton and Astrid is the opponent of Peyton running in this election. They both of their campaigns try to, you know, wheel him in. And that episode made me the most embarrassed, because at one point, Ben Platt's character is talking to a voter, and they say, "Hey, we know you're undecided." And the voter asks, "How do you know I'm undecided?" And Peyton goes, "Oh, we have tracking capabilities on people's social medias." Now, I've never worked with a campaign that tracks social media analytics. I think that's actually illegal for certain business political practices. I'm not 100% sure. That might differ from state to state, but I've never worked for a campaign that does that. However, when you cast your ballot and you register to vote, that information is kept. And canvassers and other various political parties typically have access to that information. So there have been times where I'm on the phone with a voter, or I'm in their door, and I know their name, I know their political party, I might even know how often they voted. But I'm not going to just be like, "Hi, Mary Sue Beth, you've voted 23 times since 1986. Can you please give me your opinion?" You know, I never do that. I'm always very humanistic and approachable, and my manner and methods, because politics is annoying and complicated, right? So I just try to be very chill about it. I just try to present the facts, present my own opinion and passion behind the issue, and keep it moving. I also want to say a lot of people might feel as though this show is very intense, and almost as if this show didn't portray politics in an accurate way. And many people might feel as though, well, these are local elections. What's the big deal? There was a campaign I worked where 2 city council members got in a knife fight. A local city, not county, not state, city politics. City politics. Knife fight. Shit, I have seen some shit, y'all. Shit goes down for real, okay? So, you know, some of the situations I did not find surprising at all, because I've seen and heard of really crazy things. People have skeletons in their closet. We all do. But when you become a celebrity, specifically a politician, skeletons become a little bit more interesting, you know? At the end of the voter episode, the kid ended up not even voting. And at the end of the episode, he said, my vote didn't count. Well, it turns out that at the end, I think the vote was less than 2 or like less than 10, well within the margin of error, and they recounted, and then they just, well, Astrid ended up pulling out, but when they counted it, I think there was only a difference of like 2 votes, very minimal. Now let's talk about the Voters episode, which is in season 2. The Voters episodes follows a mom and a daughter who disagree politically, and it follows the mom who's working, you know, the polling place, and it follows the daughter who is a volunteer for Peyton's campaign. This episode was also one of my favorites because, like I said, we're all caught up in the politicians. Now let's focus on us, the voters, you know? And the thing I loved the most was Peyton's honesty with the volunteer, where it was like, look, yes, I care about these issues. However, yes, I also need and want to win in order to work on these issues. That's the truth of politics. And we all believe, like, yeah, Bernie, I totally went to one of his rallies, and I'm a total Bernie fan, totally, yeah. But Bernie's a human being, and Bernie's a politician, and when we believe in someone, they become a martyr. But at the end of the day, we have to understand, 2020 is the year of killing your idols. That's what I'm trying to say, essentially. You have to understand, and especially with politics, are there politicians that I do really appreciate their work, and I appreciate their ethics and their morals? Abso-fucking-lutely. But to treat them as a martyr, to treat them as the face of a revolution, no. People are a revolution. Groups and society, we're the revolution. It's not just one individual person. Remember that. But anyways, that episode I particularly loved because you see the voters sort of lose faith in the political system, but you also see them, even though they've lost faith, they still care. And that's how I was. Before I worked into politics, I knew that the political field was bullshit. I already knew that. But when I truly got behind politics, and after my second campaign, that campaign changed my whole view on Republican versus Democrat, on there's always... That campaign was so, like, that by the end of it, I didn't know which side I was on. I was there was so much to unpack with that campaign. And that's the truth of politics. There's so much to unpack. You might want to do one thing to help one group out, but you might be seriously, you know, disenfranchising another group. It's very complicated. And it's also something I love about politics because it involves creative problem solving. And I really love shit like that. The last thing that I really appreciated was in season 2, Astrid and Alice end up getting pregnant both by Peyton because they enter sort of a weird threesome throuple relationship, which I will get into soon. And I think I really liked this episode because Astrid decides to get an abortion, and she says, I would be a terrible mom. And Alice says, oh, don't say that. You don't know that. And she's like, no, I do. I loved that conversation. I have known since I was 6 years old that I've never wanted to be a mom. And I remember this conversation with my mom. I had a doll, and I was rocking her or playing with her or something, and my mom goes, oh, you're so sweet, you're so gentle, you're so kind with that baby. And she goes, she said something, and then I remember saying, yeah, but I don't want a real baby. And she goes, what? And I was like, I don't want to be a mommy. And I literally said that, and I remember that conversation. And all my life, I have never wanted kids. Can that change one day? Maybe. But the idea of being pregnant and giving birth is terrifying to me. That is something I truly never want to experience. The idea of having to raise a person and make sure that they turn out decent, not even good, but just decent, that is way too much. I am a plant that can barely keep herself photosynthesized. I'm not gonna look after someone else, okay? No, thank you. I don't want to live a life where I have to focus on somebody else. That's another reason why I don't even know if I ever want to get married. I don't want to do that. I'm good with just focusing on me, you feel me? And I really appreciated that they started that conversation, because a lot of times, especially young women, we're told, oh, you'll change your mind, you never know. I don't know. I'm returning 21 next month, so that's what? That's 15 years of essentially feeling like, no, I don't want kids, like my whole life essentially, so, you know. Ooh, child, we are at 32 minutes, and I still have to edit another video. This is about to be a mess. Okay, let me hurry up and finish. So now let's talk about things that I didn't like. The things I didn't like about this show. This show tries so hard. This show literally tries to approach every single social, political, cultural issue in one sort of weird way, and they do it kind of poorly in most situations, in my opinion. At the same time, you have to kind of appreciate and admire them for having the chutzpah to even try. It's kind of like, okay, thanks for this, it's kind of shitty, but hey, you tried, and I appreciate it. This show's whole theme essentially is good versus bad, how to be a genuine good person. I think that rhetoric sort of gets in the way of the show, and it kind of falls short, and it kind of ruins this show, to be honest, like, because it's all that they talk about and focus on. Same thing with rich versus poor. It's just like, we get it, rich people bad, poor people good. Are you good, are you bad? Be good, be bad. It's just like so frustrating, and like, it's almost every single episode, honestly. And I get having an internal struggle, but keep it interesting, keep it dynamic. Don't just keep it at one mute level. You know what I mean? This show is filled to the brim of representation. Representation of gender, representation of yeah, kind of race, representation of specifically queer representation, which was quite wild. And one thing I do appreciate is that they addressed ageism, which I am young, and yeah, there have been times where I've been very ageist against people, especially when it comes to politics. And I really appreciated the fact that they approached this whole your generation versus my generation thing, because it's a cycle. It's never going to end. The previous generation will always think that they're more knowledgeable, better than the one that comes after them, and the one after them will always think that they're just more insightful, more in tune and connected and hip to what's going on. That'll just be an internal battle that we'll always have. It's already happening with millennials and Gen Z. A lot of the representation, they gave us a lot of representation, right? But is this representation good? Is this representation tactful? Does it serve a purpose? Is it necessary? This also sort of ties in with another thing that I hated. A lot of the relationships in this show were so forced, and one of my biggest pet peeves when consuming any sort of media and fiction, whether that be a book, a musical, or a movie, I hate, and I'm saying hate, I hate unnecessary romantic roles and relationships. I hate it. We don't need romance in stories to make it interesting. You can make a story where the two main characters don't fall in love. You can make a story about people that doesn't revolve around love and romance, and I think it can still be very much so successful. I truly, honestly believe that. When it comes to the queer representation, I am not polyamorous. I am not polysexual. However, if I were polyamorous, I think I would be slightly insulted at this show's portrayal of polyamory. I don't have an issue with polyamory. I'm just not polyamorous. I don't have an issue if every party is knowledgeable and consents to what's going on, what happens in your bedroom and your life, as long as it is consensual. I can't morally really comment on it as long as it's consensual, even if I find it weird or gross. If it's consensual, it's consensual. That's just how I personally feel about judging people's sexual whatevers. However, there's a lot of cheating and backhandedness that goes on in this show. Most of the characters are pretty fluid, which I'm a queer person and I'm fluid myself. I go back and forth of, okay, this is completely forced fluidity, or okay, they're just trying to show the fact that most humans don't exist within the realms of strictly homosexual or strictly heterosexual. And for many of us, yeah, we can have bouts and waves of fluidity. But at other times, the characters just say things that just sound so stupid. Like, for example, the character that committed suicide in the first episode, his name is River, and he keeps reappearing in Ben Platt's vision because him and River had some weird romantic sexual fling thing going on. It's very bizarre. River also, however, was in a relationship with Astrid. It's just weird. It's just weird. And, I don't know. They commented on River and they're like, River wasn't gay. He's just fluid and he just loves so deeply. And it's like, okay, shut up. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it just felt ridiculous. It was like, this is ridiculous. This, from a queer person, from the queer community, hello, we think this is stupid. That's just how I personally felt. And it kind of tied in with, like I said, every relationship just felt so forced and unnecessary. It's revealed that Senator Haddish's character is in a three-way relationship, which later gets dismantled and then remantled, and it's just very bizarre. A lot of the minorities on this show are portrayed in really shitty ways. Also, a lot of the minorities only exist to serve someone else's purpose. All of the women characters, pretty much, besides like Jessica Lange and Haddish maybe, are all servant, subservient character types. McAfee serves Platt, Astrid serves River, then serves Platt. Astrid has daddy issues and emotional attachment issues, so that's why she does that. Then, I mean, I could literally go on and on and on, but if you look at each single character, like each minority character, even Andrew, the character with cerebral palsy, the disabled character, he is kind of portrayed in a weird, shitty, gross way. At the same time, this is a philosophical, socio-political debate that we could have, right? Oh my god, I've been filming for 40 minutes. Okay, anyways. One could say it's actually worse to deny the fact that disabled people, people of color, and other minorities can't be shitty people, right? Because that is true. Then you could say, well, people already view those people in a not great way, so making it seem like they can be that way only further harms those people in real life. That is sort of an issue that I go back and forth with internally, so make your peace with it however you feel about it. But for me, watching the show, I just felt uncomfortable with the way that a lot of the minority characters were portrayed. They were all portrayed only to serve another character, which the show is about the politician. It's Ben Platt, it's Peyton Hobart, I get it. But if you're gonna have a show that preaches about representation, you would think that the writers would have represented the minorities in a much better way. That's my personal opinion on that. Yeah, so I have been talking for 41 minutes. I'm very scared for my storage on my phone, so I'm going to end this video very quickly. But this turned into a much longer video. My last thoughts, too long don't read, essentially is, this show is terribly amazing. And I love it and hate it so deeply at the same time. Very much so like these other shows that these people have created. So maybe it's a knack that they have, it's a special talent that they have for creating shows that lack substance but are also overflowing in it. It's a very interesting talent to have. Have you seen The Politician? After hearing me rant about it, are you interested in watching it? Is anyone even watching this hella long video about me ranting about a Netflix series that like no one has seen? I don't know. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Again, I just want to say thank you to all my patrons, all my subscribers, all my viewers, and anyone who's here. Thank you. And I will see y'all in the next one. Alrighty, bye.